right?
No, spring look.
We'll call the meeting to order, and Reverend Stan Bowling will lead us in the invocation. If you'll stay standing for the pledge by Commissioner Fletcher, please.
Thank you, Parishioner Wheeler. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning. We are just grateful for the gift of life. We admit we come to you sometimes mixed. We have belief and we have unbelief. We ask that you'd help us in both. We need your wisdom. We want to just thank you for all that comes from your hand, blessings and trials, and we ask that through both that we would not forget you, that we would keep you close. We ask that you would be with us in this meeting, and all that's said and thought and what results from this, we ask for your glory. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a presentation of a proclamation and retirement award honoring Michelle Gentile on her retirement from Indian River County after 25 years of service, and Commissioner Fletcher will present that. Is Michelle here? Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You can go right to the podium if you'd like. You go right to the podium. Then you've got to give a 10-minute speech after this is.
I have one prepared, but I'll keep it under 3 minutes.
Oh, nice. I have a proclamation to read to you honoring Michelle Gentile on her retirement from the Indian River County Department of Public Works Engineering Division. Whereas Michelle Gentile is retiring from Indian River County effective April 17, 2007, and whereas Michelle has been employed with the Department of Public Works since March 5, 1982, where she was engaged in several different capacities. She was promoted on February 6, 1986 to civil engineer with the engineering division, which is the position she holds to present. And whereas Michelle played a major role in the design of the Oslo 4-lane widening west of 27th Avenue Southwest, approximately 100 petition paving projects, including several miles of paving in Old Dixie Heights subdivision, several park projects, FDOT lap sidewalk projects, Indian River County Jail and Sheriff's Administration site engineering, and numerous other public works projects. And whereas Michelle has served in the county and the public with distinction and selflessness, and during her years of service, she was dedicated and her work was greatly appreciated by her employer and co-workers alike. And whereas now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the Board applauds her efforts on behalf of the county, and the Board wishes to express their appreciation for the dedication, service that Michelle has provided and given to Indian River County for the last 25 years. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners and staff extend their heartfelt wishes for success in her future endeavors. Adopted this 10th day of April 2007.
Thank you.
Michelle?
Thank you all very much. On that plaque are a couple jobs I do want to mention that were very enjoyable for me and a little scary for me. One was when we moved a house from Johns Island up A1A down County Road 512 and down Jungle Trail to what we call the Carnes site. That was an experience. We took a fence down in Johns Island, replanted the vegetation by noon and everything. You would never know we were there. Another one was when I had my tenure at Road and Bridge, was standing underneath a bridge up in the Sebastian Water Control District area, stuck in the mud with water moccasins all around me. So I appreciate Jim not putting that on that plaque. It is sad to leave. I'm going to miss the routine. I'm going to miss the people. I'm going to miss what I've been doing for 36 years. But life is short, and when the time to leave comes, you know it, you feel it. You feel it in your heart. A great writer, Ralph Waldo Emerson, had a definition of success: to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a little better, whether a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because of you, because you have lived. This is the meaning of success. And I feel there are other things for me to do, no matter how insignificant they may be. I'm going to miss you all, and I thank you. Who knows, maybe I'll run for county commissioner.
Michelle? You're not getting away with just one plaque.
And I want to know whose district you're in.
Yeah. This is to certify that Michelle Gentile is hereby presented this retirement award for outstanding performance and faithful service to the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners for 25 years of service on this 10th day of April 2007. In addition, we have one more plaque. Michelle Gentile, in appreciation of 25 years of service with Indian River County Board of County Commissioners, 2007. Proclamation.
I don't know if we're going to be able to shake your hand now.
Can we do this again next week?
Most certainly. Congratulations.
Oh,
Thank you.
Congratulations. Good luck.
thank you.
Next is a proclamation designating April 22nd through the 28th, 2007 as Crime Victims Rights Week in Indian River County. Whereas victims of crime across America need and deserve support and assistance to help them cope with the consequences of crime. And whereas National Crime Victims Rights Weeks offer us all an opportunity to promote strength and unity in helping victims and survivors of crimes through a wide range of supportive services offered by over 10,000 communities and justice system-based programs, and more than 32,000 federal and state statutes that define and protect their rights. And whereas by being united against crime and for victims' rights and services, we gain strength as individuals, as communities, and as a nation as a whole, and offer strength to victims who seek to recover in the aftermath of a crime. And whereas America has joined together annually each April since 1981 to recognize the needs and rights of crime victims and survivors during National Crime Victims Rights Week, now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that April 22nd through 28th, 2007 be designated as Crime Victims Rights Week in Indian River County, and the board honors crime victims and those who serve them during this week and throughout the year, and that's signed by all the commissioners adopted this 10th day of April. Is there someone here to receive this? Okay. Next is a presentation of the Landscaping Award to county staff by the Audubon Society. Dr. Baker.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me present this award. You know, in our county, what people do here is very important in our future. And Audubon likes to recognize people that do a good job, and especially in the landscaping and in the environmental issues. We have given out awards to, for instance, the Slick Building on Indian River Boulevard, for transplanting those nice big oaks in front of him. And of course that was done before the hurricanes, and he's been struggling to keep going, but he at least he didn't have to do it, but he did it. And our county is so much better for it. And another good example, I think, was out at 58th and 26th Street, where the development there really moved a heck of a lot of oak trees, and it was out there for the whole community to envision and see. Audubon would like to present our landscaping award this year to county employees who have done a terrific job in helping us have one of our strongest landscaping ordinances. And it got it through, and you all passed it unanimously 3 or 4 weeks ago. And we would like to present this award to Stan Bowling, John McCoy, Brian Freeman, and Roland DeBloy. And I got Debbie Ecker, who was head of the group in doing this in collaboration with the county. It was actually a very collaborative effort. And Jen Stripson is involved in that, and is the first vice president. So if they would come forward, I'd appreciate it.
I would like to show what this is.
A couple of them have actually gotten some of those awards in the past. We appreciate it very much, and I think it's a great example. Our community is going to be so much better because of the work of these 4 people, and you're going to... What's that? Our county, you're going to see a tremendous difference in our county, I think, with the new landscaping ordinances in the future. And it's going to be good for the beauty of our county, and it's going to be good for the environment. And I think it's so nice to be so positive about such a thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you, Dr. Baker, too, and Audubon for taking the time to recognize the staff, because I think I do, and everybody here also, I think they do an outstanding job, and we're very fortunate to have the quality of staff people we have in Indian River County. And you can tell how good a job they do because nobody ever likes them. Back and forth. They've always got somebody upset with them, but y'all do a great job.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to that, the staff did a phenomenal job, and we certainly do appreciate their efforts in this. But the committee, you always see this committee come forward that work on this, and the tireless hours that they put in working. I really like the incentive-based side of it for putting in the native landscape and working with the Growth Awareness Committee. To me, that was just brilliant. It really was. That's the way business gets done. So thank you to the committee as well as those that help write the policy.
Yep. Thank you.
Ditto.
Okay. Next is the approval of the minutes of the Joint School Concurrency Workshop meeting, February 15th, 2007.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. And next is the consent agenda. Any,
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Public hearings, and that's a request for authorization for Community Development District to mark application for the Community Development Block Grant in the Neighborhood Revitalization category, and request authorization to proceed with the consultant selection process. That's found on pages 78 through 90.
Good morning. I'm Bob Keating. I'm County Community Development Director. This is your second public hearing regarding submitting an application for a Community Development Block Grant. Several weeks ago at the first public hearing, you tentatively agreed to submit a Community Development Block Grant application in the Neighborhood Revitalization category to do a fire station. Since then, staff has worked with our consultant, Fred Fox. We've put together an application. We actually had a meeting of the Citizens Advisory Task Force yesterday and they unanimously recommended that you go ahead and submit that application for the fire station. At the last public hearing, we went over some of the criteria and some of the rules for submitting a community development block grant application. Let me just say a couple things. First of all, Indian River County, to participate in the community development block grant program, has to submit an application, what's called a small cities discretionary program, and that's a competitive program. So there's no guarantee that we're going to get this grant, but because we have to compete with other jurisdictions. The maximum amount of the grant can be $750,000, and that's what we're applying for here. Fred Fox, who prepared the application, has prepared it at no cost, and he won't get paid unless we get the grant, and even then we have to go through a competitive process to select a consultant. I'm going to turn it over to Fred, but before that I just want to give you our recommendation, and that's that you open the public hearing after Fred finishes, that you take public input, and then you authorize the chairman to sign the grant application and me as a community development director to provide any additional information that's needed as part of the process. With that, I'll turn it over to Fred Fox.
Good morning. And Bob has pretty well summed it up. The applications are due in Tallahassee next Friday, the 20th. If we're successful, you should have a contract somewhere in the fourth quarter of this year with the state. The total project cost is estimated at $2.2 million, with $750,000 of that being from the grant. And again, you need to open up the public comment, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have about the process.
I just have a few quick questions. How bullish are you on our application?
I think with the fact that your plans and specs will be done, that should make you very competitive.
What will be done?
The plans and specs for the project. That's part of it. We're getting 100 points in the application for having this completed.
That we're moving forward. We've already got the land, and that counts as a part of our match, I assume, that we have the land.
No, I mean, but basically the match that's required is only $250,000, so we're well in excess of that with just the cost of constructing the fire station.
And just another quick question that I was asked the other day by somebody that I couldn't really give them a definitive answer on. I do understand why the CBDG would clearly fit in this area. Is there any other area in the county that we can utilize this program again, and where we may need some other fire stations?
Actually, the Citizens Advisory Task Force actually did consider several other projects, and we do have some other parts of the county that have low, moderate income concentrations of population, and that's one of the characteristics you really need to look for to get the minimum requirements. Actually, we are currently just closing out a community development block grant that in Gifford. This one, we had a housing rehabilitation and replacement grant that actually Fred was our consultant on. We will be closing out hopefully in the next.
It's up in Tallahassee, hopefully today.
Hopefully it'll get closed out.
When you say closed out, that means they actually cut the check and let go?
Actually, more than that, they give it its seal of approval and acknowledge that we have.
The file.
Yes,
okay.
We have finished everything. We met our minimum requirement of 16 houses plus an additional several. A few years ago, we did do a CDBG project up in the West Wabasso area.
With the water?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we have been working with the health department, looking at maybe putting sewer up in the West Wabasso area. We looked at that. Also down in the Oslo area, looking at road paving, drainage, some other projects. And there are some additional projects we could do in Gifford. So those are three areas that we look at in particular for CDBG projects.
Okay, and the opportunity to step outside of that pretty much knocks us out of the threshold to be eligible for the CDBG.
You might do Fellsmere too because of the demographics with the lower
that would be
income.
more of a city project though, wouldn't it, with Carter Hall subdivision?
Yeah, the city generally applies for grants every time they have the opportunity within the city.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions?
I do have one, just for the record. The administration part of the grant comes out of the grant, and is
Yes,
that your
ma'am.
salary?
The grant allows up to 8% of the grant for administration of the project.
And that goes all to you?
That would be negotiated with the county. I tell you, we typically charge about 7.5% to write it. And again, because obviously we're not charging you for this, but we do have a cost. We actually have a crew out in Gifford as we speak, surveying homes, and we have to do door-to-door surveys as part of this, and we're in the process of doing that.
So that includes it, that's the
It's all included in
$60,000?
that, yeah.
And that also answers Wesley's question, because you don't get paid if we don't get the grant, so that tells you how bullish he is.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing this at risk.
Either that or he's got a lot of free time on his hands.
Yeah.
Either which, yeah.
Believe me, that's not the case.
Any other questions, Commissioners? If not, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to be heard on this? Anyone like to be heard on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. You were standing behind the gentleman at the podium. Sorry about that. Public hearing's still open, by the way.
Good morning. My name is Joe Outlet III. I live at 4570 57th Avenue, and we are in the community. We are overjoyed of the possibility of having a permanent station in our area, and we hope that you will consider this and approve it.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Idlet. Anyone else like to be heard on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to accept staff's recommendation, move forward with the grant.
Second. And we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the City of Fellsmere's 2007 Comprehensive Plan amendments. That's found on pages 91 through 106. Mr. Keating?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This item relates to staff's recent review of Fellsmere's set of comprehensive plan amendments that they're submitting to Department of Community Affairs. Let me just give you a little background before I go into some of the specifics. I know you know, because of the times that staff comes and presents county type of comp plan amendments to you, I know that you understand generally the process, and you know that all local governments in the state have to have a comprehensive plan. Every local government is allowed to amend its comprehensive plan twice a year, and those plan amendments that local governments do are reviewed by the Regional Planning Council and the Department of Community Affairs. As part of the Regional Planning Council review, they always solicit comments from adjacent and other impacted local governments, as well as individuals and people with an interest. And actually, they encourage local governments to weigh in on comprehensive plan amendments submitted by other local governments. Now, while the municipalities in the county regularly do comprehensive plan amendments, and staff generally looks at all of them, we very seldom have comments on amendments that local governments do, because most of their amendments aren't significant enough that they really affect the county or affect the county's land use plan or affect the county's objectives and policies. Occasionally, though, some of the municipalities do submit amendments that are of concern. A few years ago, the staff brought to you proposed objections to a Sebastian comp plan amendment related to the Keary property. And there have been some others in the past that have been more of a concern to the county. And then sometimes staff just weighs in with staff level concerns that don't rise to the level of objections, but maybe are just comments in nature. In this case, Fellsmere is submitting several comp plan amendments. They are amending the text of their future land use element, they're amending the text of their transportation element, and they're doing 4 land use amendments. The staff looked at these. Actually, like all local governments, Fellsmere's comprehensive plan is pretty big, pretty extensive, and the amendments are pretty involved, so we really don't have the time to go through in really as much detail as we'd like. But in looking at these, staff had some major concerns regarding one of the land use amendments and some minor concerns with another one. The two that staff has prepared comments on are the Fellsmere 392 Comp Plan Amendment and the Bannack Comprehensive Plan Amendment. And I'm going to go over both of them briefly. But Fellsmere 392 is property that's about 392 acres in size, and it's located at the northeast quadrant of I-95 and County Road 512. And in this case, this is property that was annexed by the city from the county recently, and the property still has the county's land use designation, which is commercial industrial. I'm going to go into this in a minute, but this is a property that the county has anticipated being industrial, probably an industrial park, for a number of years. And the city is proposing to change that to actually two different land uses. Along County Road 512, they are proposing to change it to a regional economic activity center land use designation that's mostly a commercial land use designation. And then a little further north, they're proposing to change the land use designation to low density mixed use. With respect to the Bannack property, that is that also is a recent annexation. The property is between 99th and 101st Street, and it's just north of and contiguous to what the city limits boundaries were before this annexation. The first amendment that I want to discuss is the Fellsmere 392. This is one of the pages from Fellsmere's comp plan amendment, and this actually shows the property with the circle around it. You can see to the southwest, on the west side of I-95 and south of County Road 512 is the Anson property. There's a small piece of property that the city annexed a few years ago that's the hotel property on the west side of I-95 just north of County Road 512. And then the Fellsmere 392 property is there, and you can see really the two land uses that they're proposing. The Regional Employment Activity Center is this reddish type of color there, and then the low density mixed use is the lighter yellow color. And I'll put this in perspective in a minute, but what I do want to point out with this, and one of the issues that staff has raised in the draft letter that's attached to the staff report and is in your backup, is when this was annexed recently, there is only a very small part of the property that is contiguous to the city of Fellsmere. Actually, it's about 230 acres on the other side of I-95, just down here in the southwest corner of the property. And it's questionable really whether or not that's consistent with the annexation rules in Florida Statutes Chapter 171 and a recent court decision that indicated that annexations should have more contiguity than just a little sliver when it's a larger piece of property. And that is one of the comments that's in staff's proposed letter. This is also a graphic that's in Fellsmere's comp plan amendment. This shows you a little more what's proposed on the site. It shows residential. Actually, it shows conservation on the north and northwest part of the property. It shows residential in the center part of the property, and it shows the commercial down along 512 and at the out to I-95 on the west. This slide illustrates why the county has some objections to this, and I want to tell you that our objections are in a couple of different areas. Just to orient you to what is around this property, you can see the property here in gray, and it is in the city of Ellesmere. It's 392 acres. You can see that there are industrially designated properties and several industrial uses in the unincorporated county just to the east of the property, and those are on the west side of 102nd Terrace. And also the county's gun range is just to the north of the property. And of course, I-95 is the west boundary, and most of the south boundary is County Road 512. Let me tell you, county staff is real familiar with this property. It's part of the Carson, or it used to be part of the Carson Platte estate. We worked with estate representatives for years on this property. The characteristics of the property that's proposed for redesignation by the city are it's mostly a wetland mosaic. The property has significant wetlands on it, and when we were working with the former owner and the owner's applicant, the owner's engineers, actually it was Carter and Associates, they had come up with a mitigation plan that staff actually wrote letters to the Corps of Engineers and St. John's supporting this mitigation plan back in 2004, and that mitigation plan involved putting over 200 acres of the 392 acres in conservation, in preservation, as mitigation for developing the rest of the property. So when you see on, or when you saw on the previous graphic that the city is looking at having a pretty significant part of this property in conservation, that's pretty much required given the mitigation requirements that will be imposed upon the property owner or developer by both St. John's and the Corps of Engineers. But it is going to take a significant amount of mitigation to get usable property there. And that's, as I said, that's what we worked with the applicant for years. But also when we wrote those letters to the Corps and St. John's back in 2004, we supported the mitigation project, and we also gave as one of the reasons that this was commercial industrial in the county. The county anticipated it being developed as industrial, and we indicated that this would help the county meet its objectives of attracting light, clean industry to the area. And actually that's the nature of one of the staff's proposed objections here. This is a piece of property that is really appropriate for industrial uses. It's at an interstate interchange that we don't have many of. It hasn't been significantly impacted by having residential development around it like some of the other quadrants of interstates have. I mean, just to the south here, we have mostly Vero Lake Estates and Pine Lake Estates. We have residential that keeps that from becoming mostly industrial, as you would like to have interstate interchanges. On the west side here, you have mostly conservation area on the northwest. Of course, the city has a lot of property in the southwest quadrant, as the county did before it was annexed, designated for commercial industrial. But I think that property is going to be subject to a lot of the same constraints that this property is, in the sense that there are wetlands there and there's going to be mitigation, and the yield is probably not going to be 100%. Like I said, the yield here is less than 50%. But basically, one of staff's concerns is that this is taking a significant chunk of industrial property out of the mix, that it's well located, but it's not going to be available for industrial uses. And also from a compatibility standpoint, this is one of the best places to have industrial uses. Not only is there no residential up in this area, anywhere near this area on the north side of 512, this property is adjacent to industrial on the east, and it's adjacent to what generally could be considered a nuisance to most areas, which is a gun range, which is going to have noise impacts at the least. The industrial over here, and as I said, some of these properties are already developed. You got Macho up there, you got Profold there, you've got what used to be XL Vision, and believe me, staff has worked on these properties for years and years and years. In fact, Mr. Milligan still owns several projects up there, and we've worked with him for years, including a number of recent depositions that staff had. But some of the concerns that staff has, besides the economic development concerns and the loss of potential industrial sites, are the compatibility. I can just tell you the experiences we had when Knight Armament was shooting guns down in their Oslo Road property. We would get complaints from property owners well over a mile away for gunshots on Sunday mornings. What you've got here now is a gun range that is significantly removed from any civilization, from any people, and what you're looking at is putting people closer to that. You're looking at having people, residences, single-family homes close to industrial uses that generally have noise and truck traffic and maybe other issues. I just want to point out some of the reasons why this should be left industrial. One is, I don't know if y'all remember when Macho was proposed up here, we had a lot of opposition to it. I think it was VOCs, volatile organic compounds, that there was a lot of concern what that would do to air quality up here, and that's even without having people near it. I'm sure you all know that there's concerns about concrete plants in the county, and there are even concerns about kennels in the county. and I can tell you, and some of these concerns are well-founded, some are not, but the best place to put a lot of uses like that are areas where there aren't people. And that's one of the reasons why it's good to have a site like this designated for industrial uses. This could be developed as industrial park. It could be zoned to planned development zoning district. There's a lot of flexibility in developing this, and as I said, we worked with applicants for years in doing that. Also want to call your attention that, talking about compatibility again, even the CVS distribution center, which is unfortunately adjacent to a subdivision, Vero Tropical Gardens, that was split by I-95 when it came through and is occupying the northwest quadrant of the State Road 60 I-95 interchange. We had complaints and problems and opposition regarding CVS. So I can just tell you, if we do want light clean industry, if we want that light clean industry to be located where it has good transportation access, where it's not going to be opposed by residents, where there are not going to be impacts on existing residential communities, this is the site. And I think, well, one of the other concerns is that there probably is not going to be an Oslo interchange, at least not for years and years. You know, the recent studies show that it's not justified, so that's another 4 quadrants that we're probably not going to have for industrial uses, and that I think makes this all the more valuable here. Actually, let me just show you a few more pictures and kind of take the focus off this one amendment. I think this aerial isn't cluttered like the other one. It shows you, I think, the extent of the wetlands on the property. Generally, the purple It isn't purple up on the screen, but the darker, it is kind of purple. Those darker areas are generally wetlands there, and you can see that the property is significant wetlands with islands of uplands within it, which is one of the reasons why it involves significant mitigation. You can see the gun range here, proximity of the gun range to the property. You can see the industrial uses over here on 102nd Terrace, and there are several other parcels and tracts over here that are available. In fact, we've been dealing with Macho for years because they want to expand more. One other concern that staff has regarding the city's proposal here is their proposed commercial, it's called Regional Employment Activity Center, is really pretty much stripped commercial. It's all along County Road 512, whereas generally the county's plan calls for commercial not to be stripped out, but to be put in compact areas. Sometimes you have to have stripped out just based on a previous pattern of development. And in this case, you're pretty much starting out with a blank slate. There's a lot of opportunity to do good design. Let me point out one other potential incompatibility here, and another reason why this should be retained as primarily an industrial site. I-95 within probably 6 or 7 years will be a 6-lane facility. And I can tell you to the south of here, most of the projects that are close to the interstate are trying to get sound walls. For years, Lakewood Village has been trying to get it right along 90th Avenue and adjacent to the interstate. Recently, I've read, I guess the Aerodrome is trying to get a sound wall. So basically, you have another incompatibility here with residential, which is the interstate. And County Road 512, this is along the area that's Phase 4, County Road 512. This is soon going to be a 4-lane divided facility. Basically, for compatibility reasons and for county economic development policy and objective reasons, this should remain commercial industrial. And actually, this graphic just shows what I've said. It shows in a lot fewer words, though. There's one other amendment that the county staff has some concerns about. Our concerns aren't really significant here, but I would really like to bring them up just to put them on record. This is the Benak property that was recently annexed. And actually, it's a good annexation. It's adjacent to where the city limits were before the property was annexed. The staff doesn't have any problems with the annexation or the proposed land use. There are just really two areas of concern. One is access, and that's the ditch roads along 99th Street and 101st Street. And another concern is the county has approved a mining project just to the west of this. And this is Kenny Godfrey's project. I don't even think he started mining. He dug a lake up near where he built his house in the northeast part of this property. And back when this was approved several years ago, one thing county staff does is we coordinate extensively with the municipalities. We notify them of any activity that the county is looking at, and the city of Fellsmere did concur with the mining here. So I think one of the things that staff wants to do is just put the landowner, the developer, on notice that there is a mining site, and there may be mining for many years on this project. The other issue is the status of the ditch roads and the extent to which the county has to maintain these ditch roads, because these are the way that development from this project can access County Road 507. They still have the ability to get down Willow Street, but there may, I'm sure the city would be looking at some kind of secondary access with development of that property. So, as I said, the staff doesn't have real significant objections to that. It's just that the city should take the initiative to get those ditch roads, take over the maintenance, and make sure that they can be improved to give the development project the necessary access, secondary access to 507. With that, staff recommends that you authorize the chairman to sign the draft letter that's in your backup. It's a letter to the Regional Planning Council addressing the concerns that the county has regarding the two proposed land use amendments. As I said, we don't have any proposed comments or concerns on the other two land use amendments or the text amendments. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Commissioners?
Yes, I got a quick question. Bob, I assume in all of this that we've asked the city of Fellsmere to do this, and they've said no?
We have not. We didn't coordinate with them. We know that the city has probably discussed this, the 392 extensively with the landowner, because the landowner asked county staff to support a change to the 392 to make it residential, and for years we said no, it's not appropriate as residential. So we have not discussed that with the city.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make some comments based on that. I think that the amount of time that went into this was a great presentation, but with what's coming forth and at the pace it's coming forth, this might have been a whole lot easier just for us to sit down with the city of Fellsmere, not even us perhaps, but just at the staff level, and say, I think the second one, as far as 101st, I can't imagine the city of Fellsmere saying, no, we won't have anything to do with that. Now, perhaps on the residential, I think there's some legitimate arguments for the northeast corner of 95, but for what we've gone through here, we could have quite possibly had the whole situation solved before it even came to us, and then we could be focused on the 17,000 acres versus this little bit that we have in front of us. So I'm not opposed to what you're saying, but I do think that basically it's more pomp and circumstance that we can go ahead and take care of business instead of sending some symbolic letters down south.
Well, let me ask you this, Bob. When did you get copies of this amendment, or the comp plan amendments? How much time have you had to even consider this?
Probably 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Generally, I can tell you, county planning staff usually sends information to the cities whenever we have a project that is on close to a city limits line. We send them well in advance. This has gone to the city's Planning and Zoning Commission, and it's gone to the City Council. In this case, we know that the 392 annexation would not have occurred if the landowner didn't think he was going to get residential.
And we can get bogged down in the details as far as when, but I know that whenever Sebastian annexed a piece of property right on 512, I got a copy of something stating the intent, the advertisement, and all that whenever the process first got started. And my first reaction at that time was, I got with Jim Davis, Jim, we need the right-of-way here. Let's make sure we get the right-of-way before they annex and turn it into commercial. That was more than 3 weeks from the time the P&Z had it. We are notified of annexations well in advance. For example, I venture to say that the 17,000 acres is way, way far out from being put before P&Z. And it might be just because of the media attention to it, but we are notified a lot more than just 3 weeks out before planning is over.
We were notified of the annexation long before this, but the land use changes are recent.
Right.
Well, and how can you? They annexed, and there wasn't a problem with the annexation. The problem was with land use, and they've just got notice. And when they got the notice that the land use was going to be changed, it's already in their comp plan, the amendment. And that's the procedure generally since I've been here, is we get that stuff and we comment on it, just like with St. Lucie County and Cloud Grove, and they've notified us of various things. I've seen many comments back from our staff to their staff, but generally all this is done in advance of changing the comp plan. This is all part of it, and I think that to sit here and kind of, in a way, say that we're negligent. I would think that Fellsmere would have let us know what their plans were before they put it in a comprehensive land use plan and send it down to us. The other problem we have here is this needs to go down. We have a timeline here to follow, and this needs to go to Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council by next week. And, or, you know, we're out of the loop. You have so many days to comment on these things, and that's the way it is. And I think that all the points that Mr. Keating made are very valid. In fact, the gun range, I don't know how many of you have been up there, but that gun range, it's a lot of use. I mean, a lot of use.
Yeah.
And then the fact that we need for future planning industrial sites, in fact, Fellsmere themselves, from what I read in the paper, said, you know, they want to bring in light industry and business also. And this is a prime place, being at a major interchange for that. And I think looking at the future, it's going to be a shame to give up a site to residential that's at a major interchange with a 4-lane and a 6-lane highway there. And I think that it's important that we follow through on this and comment on it and continue to work through this with Fellsmere and find out what DCA does or what Treasure Coast Regional Planning does. I don't think this isn't anything but just business and trying to solve a problem, and to step back and say we haven't talked with them and ignore the situation is not a good idea, in my opinion.
Well, and Commissioner, you're making my point without me saying a word, and that is there's no working with this with Fellsmere. We haven't even talked to them about it. But yet it's before us to submit to the Treasure Coast Regional Planning. I mean, we're trying to catch the dog by pulling on the tail. I mean, to me, I understand there's nothing here in front of us that I have a problem with. It's the process at where we are right now. We can't continue to take this process on every annexation. We will never get ahead of the ball.
We're following the process. My understanding. What process aren't we following?
I think the dialogue sitting down with the city of Fellsmere and addressing these issues not only could have addressed the process, could have solved the process, and we could be on working on the next task.
And if Fellsmere would have contacted us with their intent before any of this was even...
Yeah, I agree. And if a frog had wings, he wouldn't hit his butt when he jumped. But what I'm saying is we have the opportunity to sit down.
Probably debatable, too.
But if we have the opportunity to sit down with Fellsmere in advance of this, and we didn't do that, and I think that we cannot continue to do business in this direction.
Well, Wesley, how can you say that we didn't do that when we weren't even notified until a month ago what their intent was? They annexed the property. Did you have any prior knowledge that they were going to make this residential? And I mean, you know, there's things happening in Fellsmere that they aren't televised. You know, most people don't know what's going on unless you attend the meetings.
We assumed when it was annexed it would be residential because we knew that was the reason. Now, I can tell you, I did email this information to their city manager the end of last week, and I did get an email back where he said that the comments were without merit. So, so we have, I agree. We didn't start weeks ago and tell him that the county has us designated appropriately, but we did have email communication.
I think losing a prime piece of property because we want to follow a different procedure than what's been in front of us is a mistake, and I believe we need to comment on this and we need to follow through on it.
Commissioner, you're missing my point, and if I'm not making myself clear, I apologize. I have no problem with anything that's here in front of us. What I do have the problem with is the simple fact that we almost are I mean, who really, in their mind, or maybe I'm just being naive about it, but we're going to be more effective working with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council than we are being able to look the city council in the eye or the staff in the eye and say, these are our concerns. Can you help us with them? Well, I think that, not to say that this is the wrong procedure, this is just not the first procedure that should have taken place.
Would you repeat your email again, Bob?
Well, we did email the city manager. I did call the city manager, and he said that he didn't want to meet with me until his new mayor was sworn in, and he knew who it was, and he met with them first, and we're supposed to meet this week. But the reason that the commission has expressed concern about this annexation substantially more than any other annexation we've ever had, so we've taken that, they want us to be a little more aggressive than usual.
Absolutely, and that doesn't mean necessarily just wait to our first opportunity at the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. That was my own. Again, I don't have a problem with what's before us.
So you think they should go to Treasure Coast Regional?
Yeah, absolutely, but it should have.
I did misunderstand you.
No, I never said it should not.
I want to echo what you're saying. We're in a new ballgame now.
Yeah.
And the bullying back and forth and posturing is inappropriate for our county. And we need to take extra special care to be involved, communication, as much as it takes to understand our need and their need, theirs being the municipalities and the future. Just to say that none of this is appropriate is not what we're saying, please. It is appropriate, but the appropriate time is to be upfront with everybody and discuss it, and so we know where we are on an even playing field. And all this other crap needs to stop.
Yeah.
I'd just like to comment on your comment. You know, as far as bullying goes, you know, that's our system in this country, is to have open dialogue, government in the sunshine, communication, debate, to come up with the best possible solution. And I don't look at this as bullying. I don't think Jason Nunemaker looks at this as bullying. As far as comments and conversations I've had with him, we seem to have a very good relationship on a personal level. We disagree on certain things, and that's what this community is about, and that's what our government in the United States of America is about, is open government, open dialogue, debating, coming up with the best possible solution by getting input from the public. This is a government for the people and by the people. It's not a dictatorship, and it's not bullying. This is simply doing business under our Constitution the way it's supposed to be done, as I understand it.
I'm using the word bullying as a terminology used from national, federal, state, and local, and it's used over and over and over in the context of dealing with different governmental entities. That's all I'm using that for.
Okay. Well, I don't feel that.
So that's it.
Okay. As long as we.
And maybe a better word would be negotiating.
Well, heavy-handed negotiating.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think Nathan's being heavy-handed at all. We've been talking quite a bit.
what's that got to do with heavy-handed?
And Bob, can you clarify for me again? Prior to the annexation, the applicant had come to the county, apparently repeated times, asking to change this zoning from industrial to commercial, and we repeatedly denied that, and clearly stated it was the county's intention to keep that as a industrial node. Is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually who owns the property now, but I think until recently it was owned by the Carson Platt estate, who had owned that and thousands of acres up there for years. And we worked with the estate's representative, the representative of the estate, as well as Carter and Associates, which was their engineering firm, and we had specific requests. In the last few years, residential has been king, and everyone has wanted to turn his property into residential. We had requests from the landowner back then to change it to residential, and staff said we would not support it. We obviously said there's a procedure they could go through to request that, but staff wouldn't support it. And I can't remember when I did look at the annexation, but I thought that there was some annexation agreement that indicated that the city was supporting this as residential. I had anticipated that this was a done deal, because I know the property would not have been annexed unless the city was going to change the land use designation, which is one of the reasons why I didn't encourage staff to have a dialogue on this. I thought it was a pretty much all or nothing situation here.
But the county's position on this has been very clear then prior to the annexation.
Yes.
Okay.
The procedure from this point is we send the letter of objection, and then for the public, tell us what happens.
That's really what I want to make it clear. That's really what I'm asking for.
Right.
I'm asking for some dialogue, and not just emails, and not just from about waiting until mayors come in. To me, I think we have an opportunity to sit down with somebody locally. And then Bob, I just think that should have been one step taken before that, and then when we get our nose thumbed, or even simultaneously. I'm not saying this is wrong. This is the procedure. I'm with you on that. But let's try to get this taken care of before it leaves the county, because the further you get away from your government's doorstep, the more difficult it is to deal with.
I think we did attempt to do that. I hate to see us blamed for that. We have attempted to do that.
Well, I haven't seen any responses to it. I'm just hearing about responses.
I mean, that's the only way to have a response is to put it in an email today. Otherwise you got verbal.
Well, and that's
it's who struck John. So we did an email, and we tried that.
And I haven't seen that, so forgive me for making a decision on what's in front of me.
Any other comments?
Yes, the procedure from this point, would you?
Yeah, let me just tell you, the procedure for a comp plan amendment is a jurisdiction has a public hearing before its Planning and Zoning Commission, then before its elected body, and the decision made by the elected body at that time is whether to transmit the amendment to the state for review. Those steps have been done by the city, and the current status is the application has been transmitted. So it is up at DCA, and it's also down at the Regional Planning Council. As I indicated, the Regional Planning Council solicits comments from interested parties and adjacent local governments. And we are an adjacent local government, and what we're proposing today is to send these comments to the Regional Planning Council. The Regional Planning Council will have a meeting on, I think, Friday, April 20th, and they will consider this as well as a number of other plan amendments from other jurisdictions on their agenda, and they will make a decision. If the county sends down this letter, they will make a decision of whether or not these objections have merit, and if the Regional Planning Council as a whole votes to send these on to the Department of Community Affairs, they'll go to DCA. DCA will then make a decision of whether or not to put these in an objections, recommendations, and comments report that will go back to the city. If DCA does put these objections in that report, the city will need to deal with those objections and then have an adoption hearing.
And I think that's what
Thank you.
the circle comes back to.
And I'm just saying, I have not seen in here where we have written a simple letter and gotten a simple response about any bullying, any heavy-handed, whatever term you want to call it. It could have been us being heavy-handed at first and then the city turn around and being heavy-handed back, or I haven't seen that. And I do think that in this instance, the public opinion is very, very important, and the public needs to know exactly what is the intent of the city of Fellsmere, what is the intent of the county, and to basically we're able to put that in writing before we have to go to the next step, not to say that this is not an appropriate step. It is. So I just want to make that perfectly clear.
Staff just took a professional approach, letting them know that we were concerned. That's where we wanted to keep it, and I think we did what you wish, Commissioner Davis, and that's all we did. We are not trying to be heavy-handed. We took a professional approach, let them know that we had our concerns.
But in effect, we could have put that back on the city of Fellsmere, and then they would have been the one being heavy-handed. And then we have the other approaches to deal with this. And I think that that's important to go ahead, and it's not important to posture, but it's important to understand and not be second-guessing and trying to figure out what another municipality is trying to get accomplished. So I think we've beat it enough, or I have anyhow.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to add some comments. I agree with all the points that Bob brought up in his presentation. Particularly the loss of industrial land. One of the things I wanted to do in my campaign was to bring more diversified economic development to the county. Recently, the economist Bill Fruth has made several presentations, and one of the things he hits on every single time is the need for available land to draw businesses in. And the more we get rid of that industrial land, the less and less our chances become. So I think it's critical that not only do we preserve what limited industrial land we have, that we also need to look at ways to increase that amount of land. So the points relevant to the loss of the industrial node, I think, should be very strongly accented in your letter. The other big concern is, and I didn't see it quite as much in the letter here, Bob, is just the incompatibility with the existing land uses around there. The other thing you hear from the manufacturing side all the time is that they like to be isolated because sometimes they are a little noisy or whatever, and they don't want to be next to residents that might be complaining. And we do have some very good, nice little manufacturers up there in that node that bring a lot of money into this county. They sell products that go around the country, and that money, that revenue comes back into our county. So that's a positive influence. I'd hate to see anything go in there that might force them to move or look for alternative locations. So I think it's critical that we keep them buffered from any type of residential complaint. And I know we want to expand the shooting range and put in the skeet shooting.
Sporting clays.
The sporting clays. And the fact you think you'd have residential going in, we're going to be hearing shotguns, and I've been to the range, and there's some, pretty big guns that go off there, and they're pretty loud. So I just think we ought to emphasize in this letter that there are existing uses that would be totally incompatible with residential development. So I would like to see us, beef that up a little bit if possible to make it clear that those existing uses are not compatible with residential. But that's my comments on that. I just think that we need to keep the industrial land, and we need to make sure that it's very clear that there is incompatible uses, or residential would be incompatible with the existing uses around that property.
That would be a pretty good motion, Commissioner. I'm not sure, but I agree with what you're saying. We saw it in here, and Bob, you did a fine job of delineating the incompatibilities. In your PowerPoint, but as far as something for us to submit, and I'm sure you'll do a presentation of the PowerPoint down at the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council when the staff submits their case, but to have that in a cover letter that basically, we have the road issue and we have, to me, the incompatibility issue, and both of those, quite frankly, are just going to save grief for the county long term. I'll be hearing about the roads as soon as they move in. On that northern annexation, they'll wonder why the roads are only 10 foot wide and why won't we maintain them. So that's something I agree needs to be taken care of. But the compatibility issue, very, very, very wise comments, Commissioner O'Brien.
Well, I will make that as a motion that we approve staff's recommendation to forward the comments to the Treasure Coast Regional Planning with a cover letter emphasizing the incompatibility of residential with the existing uses.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next item is the Girard Equipment, Inc.'s request for local job grant memorandum dated March 30th, found on 107 through 128.
Speaking of economic development,
we don't have enough.
This is an example of economic development. As you know, one of the incentives that the county has is a local jobs grant program. We've approved several jobs grants in the past, and we recently had an applicant come and apply for a jobs grant, and that's what this item relates to. This is Girard Equipment. They're proposing to relocate their headquarters here. They're going to have 12 employees. 6 of the employees meet the qualification, primarily the salary qualification to receive jobs grant money. Generally, the county gives $1,000 per employee for companies that meet the county's target industry criteria and also meet the wage criteria. All of the jobs that are eligible to receive a jobs grant incentive must pay above the county average wage. In this case, the company hasn't made a final decision of where to locate. They're looking at possibly locating within the enterprise zone, and they get an additional bonus if they do that, which would bring it up actually to $1,200 a job, and with the 6 jobs, this would be $7,200. And the other thing is, this is not paid all at once. It's paid over a 5-year period. So this is an opportunity for the county to get in some good, clean industry, meets our target industry criteria. All of the eligible jobs pay more than the average salary in the county. Hopefully when we get companies like this, they're catalysts to bring other jobs and employers to the county. We do have a proposed agreement between the county and Girard Equipment that's attached to the backup. And at this time, I do want to mention the Economic Development Council did review this, and they unanimously recommended that the board give the jobs grant here. I think I saw Helene Castletine here, who may want to speak on this, but let me just tell you, both the staff and the Economic Development Council recommend that you approve the jobs grant and authorize the chairman to sign the agreement.
Move approval.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank Helene for working on this and the rest of the folks that helped bring this about, and hopefully we'll have many more of these in the future that we can approve as well, but I just want to thank you all for your work on that.
Thank you. Next, emergency services, approval of addendum to the Bell South Special Services Agreement found on pages 129 through 148.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next is utility services, Meadowlark Woods subdivision petition water service, 61st Avenue North and 41st Street, Indian River County project number UCP 2324, found on pages 149 through 154.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Nothing under commissioner items. And emergency services district approval of minutes of December
Move to
19th.
approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Construction service contract, Part 1 agreement with BART Construction for the construction of the Indian River County Fire Rescue Station number 12, Gifford Community Station. That's 155 through 170.
Got a quick question on that. I'll move to approve for discussion.
Second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second under discussion.
Yes, this is a new fire station.
Yes.
And what would happen, we're still going to move forward with this if we don't get the CDBG grant, I assume? Or is it all contingent on the
Well, we probably will have to look at our fire, depending on, my tax. I don't know what's going to happen to state legislators. It may even affect me then. If I have a cap and they roll me back to 2001, I won't be moving ahead on anything.
Okay. And
That's simple.
all right. And
But we are planning to, otherwise, we need that station. We are planning to move ahead, but the budget cap that the state's talking about, I wouldn't be moving ahead on any of the new stations at that point.
So we're not worried about the CDBG, and if we didn't get that and they don't do anything at the state level, we're still moving forward if we don't get the CDBG grant?
We will move forward with that station.
And then I assume it's a part of the, then therefore that language is not in the contract, that it's contingent upon any grants we may or may not receive.
Now, one of the things is we may not move ahead immediately with that station because we were trying to locate a station that we think we need more in the southwest section of the county. We think we've just found the property. We're having trouble finding the property, but the Division of Forestry just surplus the piece there in the corner, and we're working with them to get that. We put that station ahead only because of volume calls.
Good.
Am I correct?
Good.
Just another piece, John King, Emergency Services Director for the record. We have two stations in the 1-cent sales tax, and the one that Joe was talking about is around 4th Street and 43rd Avenue, working with the Division of Forestry. That was the one to replace the 5th Street Southwest station that we had a site problem with once we started construction there. In the 08-09 budget, we have 1-cent sales tax money set aside for that location. The Gifford Community Station seems to meet those needs, and the $750,000 CDBG grant that the Commission approved earlier today would provide the additional funding. But Joe is correct, there are issues about where we're going to be on the staffing side of that. The CDBG grant, we won't know the answer to that until sometime in 08 anyway.
Okay.
And
It'll be
so
more reimbursement
we'll be in a better position to make some of those decisions. What's before you today is design services only. This is not a construction contract.
Right.
But we need the design services part completed to be included with the CDBG application.
I'm ready for the question.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next is the Emergency Services Station Number 2 deductive change order number 1, found on pages 171, 174.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign, motion carries 5-0, and we
Mr. Chairman,
are...
Mr. Johnson has
No,
some
we
comments.
have two other items. We missed the item to discuss Palm Bay.
That's not on the agenda.
Oh, we
It's on
just
my
want-
calendar, but
We just want to make sure all the commissioners know that
that's tomorrow, isn't it?
tomorrow night.
Thursday.
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night,
Seven.
yeah, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock.
I just
Palm Bay.
want,
What's
yeah,
Thursday night? Oh, Sebastian.
Yeah.
Okay.
we've actually got two things that I'd like to discuss real quick with the commissioner, just calendar items, just so you're aware of them,
Okay,
and how
we'll
much
let-
staff you would
Let
like.
Bob speak, and then we'll...
Bob Johnson, Carlwyn subdivision. The fire station that was planned for 5th Street Southwest it is going to be moved to 4th Street and where the state tower is and so forth. And I think that'd be a good, that intersection in that case would be a good candidate for this roundabout, which was presented last week. So I'd like to recommend that that be considered as a candidate. 4th Street and 43rd, since the fire station's going to be as a candidate.
Yes, staff was going to get with them and look at some options, and I'm sure they'll look at that also. Okay. Joe?
Yes, I just want to remind everyone, we've, on a short notice, the Palm Bay City Council has decided that they would like to meet with us on tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in Palm Bay. I just want to make sure that staff's going in the direction that the board would wish, and one is that while we've got his growth issues, and we're just going to go out there and discuss what are they doing, and I think there's water issues and items like that. From staff, they're just, right now there's going to be myself, I think Will's going, are you going, Will? I don't know.
Probably.
And Bob Keating, and maybe Phil Mattson. We figure that'll, and maybe Eric Olson, and we're going to look based on the water issues. I'd like to also point out, we've got the charter government Thursday morning here at 9, and also at 7 o'clock on Thursday night we have the Sebastian charter government. But we also have a conflict there. Some of my staff will have to be at the planning and zoning meeting. We've got a planning and zoning here at 7 o'clock, so we'll be splitting staff for that.
We can handle both.
Yeah. Joe, can you just send me an email with or directions or the address of the Palm Bay City Hall?
Yes, we'll get it to all the commissioners today, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We ready to adjourn? Yes, sir.
Yeah, is it open to the public now, or is it? I was out, I had to go out in the hall.
Yeah, go ahead. We run a pretty open meeting.
Give your.
Okay. Hi, my name is Don Studley. I'm from 1060 East Polo Groves Drive in Vero Beach. Is this safe?
It's on.
Okay. No, I knocked it down.
Last time it fell through, I remember that.
Anyhow, I think...
And Mr. Stilley, we still have that trap door there too, so
Okay.
keep that in mind as well.
All right. No, I'd like to clarify some things that I see going wrong here. And I think this is probably the first time in my life I've ever agreed with Sandra over there, but I do agree with her. Let me tell you from Fellsmere's point of view as a citizen, not as a politician, but as a citizen. The fighting that's been reported, whether or not it's real or not real or false, it's the perception that's been given. When I read in the paper that Gary wants to go out on a one-on-one mission, that was the biggest slap in the face I've ever heard to the Fellsmere people, ever. And I've been out there for a long time. I spent a ton of money out there. I'm probably one of the largest investment people out there that's bringing money in there. I have lost a lot of money because of the bickering that's going on between the county commissioners and the city of Fellsmere. I think, quite honestly, if you go out there and you sit, there's not one single solitary person that I have talked to that's for city government, or city charter, whatever things called, or a charter government. And you know, that's really, really strange because you've got a lot of players, a lot of people. You know, I was just talking to Sid out there in the hallway. He's got a ton of property. I've got investors willing to come in and spend money on the downtown city of Fellsmere to rejuvenate it. It's 75% Spanish right now out there. People are afraid to go out there. Why? Because they don't speak Spanish, and they're seeing all these things going on that's trying to make that into a displacement area out there, and that's not where it is. There are people that want to come in. The Anson brothers are building houses out there. They've got moderate income homes coming in out there. Sid Benak's building homes out there. I brokered the deal for the hotel. That hotel is probably 120, 130 unit hotel. And we've got, I have several industries that want to come out there. I've got a guy that's out of Canada that wants to put modular homes together, component parts, okay? So they do have some industrial sites out there. But what we really need to do, as Sandra said, you don't need to have one person go out there. You need to have everybody in here. In Brevard County, when we were in Brevard County looking for zoning on properties, they have districts. If you represent this district, that's the way it goes. If you represent the moorings, that's how it goes. The moorings person does not vote on Sebastian. You know, that's a whole different area. But I'm just saying that you are absolutely ruining what you're trying to build. You know, we're all this together. I pay as much taxes as anybody else does, and so does anybody out there. But when Fellsmere is in the paper every single day, it's costing me money. I lost probably pretty close to $800,000 in the last month in money that people were going to come in and spend in downtown Fellsmere, and they got scared. The press journal scared the crap out of them. It was in the paper every single day. And somebody's coming in there and they're saying, oh, well, we want to do this, and they talk to Jason, just like that subdivision that you're talking about up there. That's been ongoing for 6 months. You know, this is not anything new. You know, and then the county comes up and says, hey, we're going to buy that property, that 82 acres that wraps around the hotel site that we have, and I have the other 10 acres under contract next door.
You know, Mr. Stone, I think if you want to, first, we're way off base here in this meeting and opening up with this dialogue. If you want to come forward next week, we can put you on the agenda.
All right.
We can listen to you and make comments on it, and other people will be here. But, you're not on the agenda. This isn't on the agenda.
All right, then I'll come back next week when I'm on the agenda.
Contact Mr. Baird's office.
We'll
put you on the agenda.
I already have.
Good. I appreciate
just was
that.
talking about the Fellsmere and how you can actually get back on. It was no disrespect or taking.
No, and none taken. The only thing I can tell you is that without perception, I don't know if politics would exist. So.
Well, I guess so. You got a good point.
And most perception's inaccurate. We will be adjourned.